Hello, my name is Kristiansen. I'm assistant professor at SUNY ESF and I'm with you today from upstate New York. I hope you are all safe and well where you are. As a chair of this panel, I am hoping that you're enjoying all the presentations that we're having. I'm also an incoming vice chair of ICA's Division on Environmental Communication. So I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. Today I am presenting on behalf of James Painter and Megan Shea, and we are today going to look at how animal agriculture and its climate change impact is covered by the UK and the US media. Animal agriculture feeds the beast, and the beast in this case is the amount of emitted greenhouse gases that this sector contributes to. It's actually a major greenhouse gas contributor, comparable to the transportation system. Around 14.5% of global human-induced greenhouse gases stem from the livestock sector. And what's particular in this case of livestock, though, is that it's not given a lot of attention in the climate change debate, or at least it has not been given a lot of attention in the past, but we might see some changes coming. Given animal agriculture's importance and scale of contribution to greenhouse gas emission, this is surprising that it's not given more attention given its impact. And that is really what sparked our interest to look into this and conducting this study. The 2014 Chatham House report called Livestock Climate Change Forgotten Sector, they talk about a livestock policy vacuum because of the low amount of attention that policy gives this issue. This results almost in a spiral of silence, if you will. Policymakers largely ignore the issue, the media doesn't cover the issue, and the public might even know very little about this issue. And without knowledge and understanding for the issue, change is unlikely to happen. Now, as communication scholars, we know that silence in the media will not help bring the issue to the agenda. The mass media are important actors in society in their production, reproduction, and transformation of the meaning of news in general and environmental issues in particular. For example, the amount of media attention a specific issue attracts will influence the audience to think about the issue that receives a lot of media attention, and this is called the agenda setting effect. The more attention an issue gets by the media, the more likely the audience is to think of this topic as an important topic. Can also affect the awareness and knowledge of the general public about an issue. Awareness of an issue is often a prerequisite for the public to take action. Media effects may be less than often presumed in terms of strongly influencing what an audience group or member might think about an issue, but they do have a strong influence over what issues the public and policymakers think about. Now, there is very little academic research in the specific area of animal agriculture, climate change links in the media compared to the vast amount of literature that exists on how the media cover climate change in general and its effect on public attitudes. The existing research shows a few things. Neff, Chan, and Smith 2008 show that in the past, a very small percentage of media output covers the connection between livestock and/or food systems and emissions contributing to climate change. For example, an examination of 16 leading US newspapers from September 2005 to January 2008 concluded that less than 0.5% of the 4,500 articles on climate change reviewed by the authors, Neff et al., mentioned the link of livestock and climate change. Kiesel, 2010, he found that specific reports on the link, such as FAO's report Livestock's Long Shadow that came out in 2006, received very little media coverage. And Almiron and Sopoudou 2015 speak about this media blind spot in the English-speaking world that they also found in the Italian and Spanish language press. Some authors, including Shea 2017, argue that the lack of media coverage kind of normalizes the meat culture. So the relative lack of knowledge about how the media cover animal agriculture's impact on climate is important to address in order to enhance our understanding of how this issue is portrayed in the public sphere and how audiences may react and act on this information. Therefore, in our study, we set out to answer two research questions. We wanted to know how much media attention is the link between animal agriculture and climate change given, and how, when it's given attention, is it portrayed, which are the causes that are mentioned, the solutions, and who are the responsible actors that the media discuss in this coverage. To answer these research questions, we set out to do a media content analysis of UK and US newspapers, and we chose the left-leaning New York Times and The Guardian, and the right-leaning Wall Street Journal and The Telegraph. And we analyzed articles from January 2016 until December 2018, so quite a large time period. Our sample consisted of 188 articles after we had excluded the articles that were not relevant in our opinion. We analyzed articles that made an explicit mention and link between animal agriculture and climate change, and we only included articles in our sample that mentioned this link at least 2 times. So we found 188 articles in all 4 newspapers that discussed animal agriculture's impact on climate change. And here you see the line graph over time from 2016 till the end of 2018. And the highest number of articles were published in 2009. And of course we were curious what was the issue that was being covered. The trigger for this larger amount of media coverage was when Lord Nicholas Stern spoke out saying that people should think about giving up meat. So that got a lot of media attention. We were surprised, however, that the Copenhagen Climate Summit did not trigger media attention about the issue. Only 2 articles published in December 2009 in January, and 2 in January 2010 that covered the Climate Summit mentioned this link. So if we now look at the different media and how much attention they gave this issue, we see that The Guardian is clearly on top. And in general, UK newspapers give this topic more attention than a US newspaper, but this is mainly caused by The Guardian being such a strong actor in this field. The issue we also saw is dealt with more by the left-leaning newspapers. All right, let's dive into which solutions to this problem that are mentioned in the media coverage. We saw that in almost every article that we analyzed, a solution was mentioned. In fact, in 91% of all analyzed articles, at least one solution was mentioned. And if we look at this graph, we see that dietary changes such as meat consumption reduction, vegetarianism, human diet and dietary change in general, and veganism are the most discussed solutions to this topic. Changes to agricultural practices or animal breeding are the second most discussed solution after these dietary changes. So looking at these results slightly differently, we have categorized those solutions, and we see that consumer behavior, dietary changes are the most covered solutions to this topic, followed by changes in and agricultural practices, regulation and tax, alternative protein sources, etc. So not surprisingly, when we turn to who are the responsible actors, consumers are the actors that are mentioned as being responsible for this needed change most often. Factory farms and farmers are mentioned far less than consumers, and it was interesting for us to see that regulators are not really seen as being responsible for this. Our concluding thoughts on this study is that animal agriculture is a sector that receives relatively little media attention given its high greenhouse gas emissions. We looked at coverage from 2006 until 2018, and we found 188 articles in these 4 news outlets that significantly discussed this issue. Our results also show that the media focuses mainly on individual dietary changes, and we think that both individual and systemic changes are necessary to help mitigate this problem. Mann and Brokop argue in their USA Today opinion piece in 2019 that the strong focus on consumer change might take away attention from the necessary systemic changes, and this might distract attention away from large polluters. The farming sector is also mentioned much less than consumers as a responsible actor. This might be an indication of a relative lack of media scrutiny on large-scale intensive animal farms, which is linked to their draconian ag-gag laws in some of the US states. The ag-gag laws put stronger restrictions on reporting on what goes on inside farms. This might in turn lead to a general lack of resources for in-depth investigative reporting on the farming sector. As the knowledge of animal agriculture's impact on climate change becomes more widespread, we expect more media coverage which may affect people's choices to follow animal-free diets. Further studies, we think, are needed to look at the time after 2018. A lot has happened. If we look at IPCC's special reports on land use, a lot has happened in this area, and we expect to see a reaction on this in the media. Further studies would have to look into that, and we also call for further studies that include more media sources and also from other countries. So I want to end this presentation thanking for your attention. Here is a picture of Esther, the Wonder Pig, who lives in New York. She's very famous on Instagram. You should go check her out. She's super cool. You can reach me here on my email. You find me on Instagram under Prof. Kristiansen or on Twitter under Shea Kristiansen. And thank you very much also on behalf of my co-authors of this presentation, James Painter and Megan Shea. Have a good day.